that stage I was thinking, what the hell is going on? Day and night. Should I just give up, you know, like perfectly sorted V12 BMW. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are saving or restoring slightly V12 Mora 750 long wheelbase. It's a rare car, as you can see by the color itself, especially V12. There are many in straight 6 formats, a couple 740s, but V12s there is only maybe 5 or I don't know total production numbers, but it's a rare car anyway. So what I've done so far is refreshed the underneath. That means I've done rear subframe, powder coated subframe, powder coated wishbones, hubs, loads of bushes replaced, back brakes and handbrake. Basically all the back end is done. So far already done the front subframe with the hubs, drop links and loads of stuff. You'll see it anyway along the video what I've done underneath. But today, as you can see, I already sort of stripped the engine bay, because we are replacing the valve cover gaskets, including valve covers and intake manifolds. We in the same time black wrinkle finished them. That means they look more fresher. We also replaced a couple bolts and nuts because they all sort of were slightly rusted, but sort of giving sort of attention to detail stuff, if that makes sense, because as I said, car's been left in sort of bad state, if that makes sense, and now we're sort of refreshing, because afterwards when the mechanical is done, the customer will send this to the body shop to do a couple of rust spots, and the car will be tip-top condition, because well, he plans to keep it for long. He loves the car, he knows how rare it is, and I'm guessing not many times you're going to come across V12 Mora. So stay tuned and let's put this engine back together and see whatever needs replacing along when I'm putting everything back together. So stay tuned, sit down comfortably, and let's start. As you can see guys, we already replaced the valve covers, including the gaskets and obviously spark plugs, ignition leads. Now you see what I'm talking about? Day and night, literally. This will look so much nicer when everything's gonna be washed, put it back together, will look stunning. So the covers are finished. Now distributor leads. These are obviously numbered, and I was thinking how the hell I will remember which one's which, but there is a numbers you can see down here directly. You can't see them from the side, so obviously number 1 to number 1, and so whatever. Good to mention, when you got the intake manifolds off, replace literally everything whichever you need underneath the intake manifolds, because with the intake manifolds on, it's sort of very fiddly access, much harder to sort of get to spark plugs. So do everything in one go and just forget about it. It's just once per life job, let's put it this way. So yeah, I start to put everything back together. As I said, we sort of black wrinkle finished them, because it just, when you open the bonnet, like, it gives attention to detail, because this is what we want. We all, as you said, replaced some zinc bolts, all the rusty bolts all replaced, painted also these bits, the clips on the headlights. These ones I can just pop off. And what I'm gonna do while I'm putting the engine back together, I'm gonna spray them matte black. Just gonna wait till the top gonna dry up, then we're gonna flip it over and do the back side, and obviously you can see already looks much nicer. Now let's see what's involved, put everything back together. Now these PCV, the membrane needs to do in the same time when you're putting the intake manifold. It's the most awkward job that is, and it's tight as well. You need to make sure it sits right and it's not leaking. Otherwise, if it doesn't gonna sit right, it means it's gonna leak air and the engine's gonna run rough. Now 24 nuts to screw on. So the intake is on, looks much nicer and gives, I think it looks sort of, well, maybe evil, if that makes sense. As you can see, I like the sprinkle finish. I'm in well, the owner can decide if he wants to do or not. Like, you could put a piece of block or sandpaper and sand the lines down. So basically the lines and the BMW sign would be sort of silver, well, not silver, aluminium finish. But you can, that's easy access, you can do it anytime, but at the moment you can leave it as it is. So now we're gonna put injectors on and all the pipes and throttle bodies. Downside of V12, no space whatsoever. Like very awkward, sticking your hand in the places where you shouldn't stick your hand. Tell me guys if the struggle is real. Every time when you're working on the engine, like, this is what I mean. For example, I'm putting everything back together and I'm noticing this, something isn't right, let's say here. And then I'm thinking, did it come actually this way or did the pipe come this way? And then I obviously go and check on another car and yeah, the pipe goes on that side. And now obviously, you know, you need to take this bolt, move the dipstick tube and put a pipe behind it. So this is the with the loads of wires, pipes, like little bits and pieces, this is where I'm sort of struggling the most, like, because there is so many of them. You just try to do best you can, so it's sort of factory place, same as the bolts correct size, like anything, you know, like that's probably where the most of the time goes, you know. But I'm sure many of you experience the same thing. I'm not the only one, but it's a part of a game. So this is what I mean, attention to detail. Instead of nuts like these, old rusty ones, we're putting fresh zinced ones. By the way, I found these inside the interior, like E38 interior, the breakers I have. So you don't need specifically buy them, so instead of throwing them away, this is attention to detail. Stuff like this as well also gonna be replaced. So far so good. As you see, pretty much all done, but I'm gonna install the expansion tank with the viscous fan. Basically gonna put everything back together except the air boxes, scuffle panel. Gonna put this trim down here and then take it out and I'm gonna wash it. We got brand new intake boots, as the originals are split. By the way, don't try to attempt to repair these. They're not that expensive, brand new. And if they have a split, then obviously they have an air leak aftermath, and obviously engine's running rough. So yeah, I think like 30-40 quid each, brand new. So trust me, don't try to put a tape around it, glue it or whatever, because I've seen loads of stuff. So just best way, just buy brand new and thing and last another 15 years. Right guys, as you can see, we're in sort of different location, next unit down. I got a sort of story to tell you what sort of happened after I sort of assembled the engine and first started. We sort of didn't, well, I wasn't sure what's wrong with the car. I thought it's sort of my mistake, so I wasn't bothered filming it. But now it's sort of running fine. I decided, you know what, I'll tell you the story. So, started up the car, it sort of was running, well, because you know, all the parts are back together, you would think maybe it would misfire for maybe a couple seconds and afterwards it will be alright. But in my case, it was misfiring constantly. I thought like, well, what it could be, you know, like just 100 sort of thoughts in the minds right away. But so I've done pretty much all day. I've spent all day checking every single bit, swapping some injectors, swapping the spark plugs, and like, you know, like when you have such a sort of a fault, you don't know where to think, because obviously you sort of done your part, but something isn't right. So that was my case. And as I said, I've spent literally a day investigating, and after sort of a day, it sort of didn't change. The misfire was still there, exactly in cylinder 9 and 12. As I said, we swapped the injectors, checked the sort of leads, the numbers on the leads, sort of everything was fine. Checked for air leaks, you know, like checked literally everything. Because this is a V12, it's also sort of awkward to work on it. So let's say even change the spark plugs on these probably will take you half a day, more or less. So I rang the owner up, I told, because it sort of came in with the misfire already. It was sort of like intermittent, but sometimes the engine was running fine. So I've explained him, I've done this, you know, but it's sort of misfire still there. Like I've done all the checks, and sort of I just wanted to hear his story, what's behind, well, what's the stuff I don't know. And he told me, obviously he owns it for a couple of years. Before it was driving completely fine, and sort of after 6 months it's been sitting, then it started to behave differently. Sort of you drive it, it's sort of misfiring, then it cuts out, like. But anyway, like when he dropped the car off, I've seen the split intake boot, like obviously it hasn't been serviced for a while, so I thought I'll do everything in one go. Everything must be fine, you know. So and he said internally sort of engine never, so he'd driven the car before, like no signs of anything to go wrong. So I thought, okay, you know, like I've done all my checks. He told me his story, and I thought, you know what, last thing we're gonna do is do compression check. So next day I sort of took the cylinder 12 out, the spark plug out, done the compression check, and guess what? Compression was absolutely fine, 160 psi. And at that stage I was thinking, what the hell is going on? Like I was like completely lost, you know. I thought, you know what, should I just give up, you know, like, or the other side of mine thinking like there must be maybe a simple fault. Where I had cars in the past, there was like such an awkward fault, and I spent literally days and days, and like you're thinking you try to fix something, but it's like waste of time. And then I was like, started to think, you know, why exactly cylinder 9 and 12? Like I've checked the lead, checked this injector, we sort of took the injectors out, see how this squaring is like all sort of evenly, no issues whatsoever. Just for some reason I thought, like, because I've changed the ignition leads, I thought, what if the numbers on the ignition leads are wrong? It just sort of like, thing like that clicked in my mind. Me and my mate was doing compression check, and I was standing next to it. I was like just literally clicked on my mind. What if the numbers are wrong from manufacturer, who sort of, here's the leads, brand new in the package, fit them on. The numbers on the leads are sort of, that's the way they are, because obviously you got leads, 7 leads in total, and sort of they are all numbered already. And I thought, what if them numbers are wrong? And guess what? I swapped the number 9 to 12, sort of swapped them around, and the car ran perfectly. At that stage, I was like, what the hell? So I've literally spent over a day for nothing, just sort of silly fault like that, because the numbers on the leads were wrong. And it just proves the point, sort of, like trying to say, like, like if you ever have a fault like that, start with the sort of silly things like swapping things that are like, if you've been there, you fix something, but just rewrote your route back and think sort of like, what if it's not your fault? What if someone else, maybe the manufacturer, like done something differently, you know? Like you can see definitely on sort of parts that sometimes manufacturers do make mistakes. So this was my example, where, as I said, number 9 supposed to be number 12, and number 12 supposed to be 9. So that's the story. So now it's here. We're gonna sort of finish the putting everything back together. We're gonna put the air intakes, all the plastics, to sort of finish the car off, and the job is done and dusted. So let's crack on again. What makes me happy? A perfectly sorted V12 BMW. That's what makes me happy, because I've spent loads of time in it, and it's finally sorted. With that I mean all the nuts and bolts is sort of replaced, all the gaskets, whatever needs to be replaced, and the plastic is refreshed. So you can see before and after picture, and I think the car is ready to be picked up, because it's been like 6 months in the workshop. Well, not exactly in the workshop, but with me. And yeah, I took some time, sort of was ordering parts and wrong parts coming over here, so then again reordering. So it was like backs and forwards, but I finally finished. I still got some couple bits to do, like headlight washer and some small bits maybe underneath. Put a under tracer back on, and like maybe and replace the back wheel speed sensors, sort of, and that's about maybe spend another 2 hours or so. And yeah, so customer's gonna pick the car up, so he's probably gonna see this video before he picks up. So when he picks up, there is no questions asked, like that's it, there you go, you know what's been done, and there you go. So yeah guys, leave the comment below, see what you think regards this slight restoration. I really sort of enjoyed it, but I probably won't do another like that for a customer, because when you do it for a reward, it's a bit different, you know. When you do it for your own car, like you don't sort of, it's hard to explain, but I find it a bit different. So I hope you sort of understand what I mean. And yeah guys, so leave the comment below, and I'll see you next time. Peace.